Hello everyone, welcome to the Crystaly Recapped channel. Curtis stands in front of his house staring at a substance resembling oil. However, this is all happening in his head. In reality, Curtis lives with his family. His daughter Hannah is unable to speak, so Curtis learned sign language. Before going to work, Curtis always looks up at the perfectly clear sky. At work, Duarte hints that they won't be able to drill the hole because of the approaching rain. But Curtis insists on continuing the drilling. 10 minutes later, a downpour forces them to stop working. It's close to night when Curtis returns home. Samantha tells him that Hannah was playing in the yard and found a stick with nails. Curtis promises to clean up all the trash tomorrow. While cleaning, it starts raining again, with a cloud exactly like the one in Curtis's nightmares. He tries to catch the yellow drops, but they are completely normal. Suddenly, lightning strikes, a tornado forms, and the dog breaks free from its chain and bites his hand. But this too was a dream. Curtis starts to think the dog might be dangerous and asks his daughter to stay away from it. At work, Curtis still feels like his hand was bitten. Their boss orders them to finish drilling the well, but the process is interrupted again by a drill breakage. Curtis goes for a spare drill and notices birds forming different shapes in the sky, but Duarte sees nothing. After work, he and Samantha visit a school for children with disabilities. The drive home is complicated by another downpour. Curtis loses control and crashes, and unknown people break the window and pull his daughter, then try to kill Curtis. With this pain, he wakes up in bed. Samantha immediately notices that he looks strange, but he says he is fine. Before leaving, Samantha reminds him that guests will come tomorrow, but they can cancel if he wants. Curtis doesn't see a problem. When everyone leaves, he sets up the basement to weather the storm. When Samantha returns, she tries to understand why they should get rid of the dog if it hasn't done anything. But Curtis has no clear answer. It's my dog, so it's outside. In another nightmare, people watch their house. Then all the furniture flew, and Curtis found it hard to breathe. Catching his breath, he takes his daughter, and they drive to the city. First, they go to the library to buy a book on recognizing mental disorders. Then they buy a lot of long-term storage food. Because of this trip, he almost misses dinner. Curtis says he wants to clear out the shelter, but no one responds to his proposal. One way or another, Curtis spends all his free time setting up the shelter, reading the book along the way. The next day, he visits a doctor and says he has trouble sleeping, which started 4 days ago. The doctor considers this period too short for medication. Curtis insists on getting pills anyway. After hearing the story, the doctor prescribes a mild sedative. Before bed, Samantha shows him a new house near the sea. Curtis promises to think about it, then takes the pills. To his surprise, there are no nightmares that night. The happiness didn't last long. At work, he is startled by the sound of thunder, especially when Duarte doesn't hear it. Curtis feels sick and rushes home, noticing a container with a for sale sign along the way. Standing in front of the container, Curtis drives to his mother, who lives in a nursing home. It turns out she has a mental illness, and he wants to understand how it started progressing. Maybe she remembers something? She only says that there were eyes and ears around. "You're healthy, right?" Later, he calculates the cost of building the shelter. It's almost $7,000. It's much more than he has, so he will have to borrow money from the bank. If he doesn't repay the loan, they will lose the house. The man warns that this is risky, but Curtis insists. Of the 5 signs of schizophrenia, Curtis already has 2: delusions and hallucinations. He takes the test and scores 5 out of 20. Schizophrenia starts at 10. A psychologist listens to his concerns and says she doesn't have the authority to prescribe medication. On the way home, he witnesses a series of lightning strikes. He wonders if anyone else sees this, but the whole family is asleep. The next day, construction work begins in the yard, with Duarte helping him, which greatly shocks Samantha. Curtis tries to explain everything to her, but she calls him crazy. Curtis admits that he had to take out a loan. Samantha doesn't understand what is happening to him. Curtis gets the idea to take more than the prescribed dose, causing him to have convulsions. He admits that he dreams about the end of the world. It starts with a strong storm, followed by a thick, viscous rain, and everyone goes mad. Animals go crazy too. That's why he locked up the dog. Curtis can't explain the dreams, but he is sure that something like this will happen in the future. The next day, the family schedules Hannah's surgery. It will take place in 6 weeks. In the last dream, Dewart tried to kill Curtis, so he asks the boss to transfer Dewart to another site. The man doesn't understand why, since Dewart is his friend. Curtis insists, then sinks the container into the pre-dug hole. He still needs to buy several gas masks, the newest ones. The man warns that children cannot wear such gas masks. There are special ones for them, but he doesn't sell them. Curtis then wants to create an air purification system for the shelter. His friend Kyle approaches, and Curtis manages to convince him to take the dog. In a new dream, Samantha was affected by the rain and considered taking a knife, making Curtis afraid of her. She immediately realizes he had a new nightmare. The boss found out that Curtis used work equipment to dig a hole at his house, which violates all rules, and he is fired. Curtis has a large debt. Samantha asks if he can survive the dream in which she appeared. He replies, yes, and Samantha says they won't go to the sea anymore. Their money will last for 2 months. During this time, they will find new jobs, but Curtis must seek help from a good psychiatrist. Soon, a festival begins in the town, and all the residents gather. Dewart tries to confront Curtis. He understands that everyone thinks he's crazy, but warns them that a storm will soon come that will change the entire world. Returning home, he sees his daughter looking at the sky. It turns out she also sees birds trying to attack them. Moments later, he wakes up to the sound of sirens. The family runs to the shelter. After a while, Curtis considers opening the door, but decides to wait. Samantha suggests opening the door since the rain has long ended. Curtis is very scared, hearing the patter of raindrops, but he overcomes his fear and opens the door. Before him appears a clear sky and workers fixing the broken wires. After some time, their vacation begins, and they arrive at the sea. However, their joy is interrupted by a storm, exactly like in Curtis's dream. Viscous drops start falling from the sky, indicating that he wasn't crazy and the world is ending. This is the end of the movie. That's all for today. Subscribe and like if you want more videos like this.